Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Jesse. I'm your host, Jesse, and we're here today with two fantastic guests. We have my friend Mohammed Magdi.
Hello.
And Annie Louey.
Hi.
Both of whom are comedians here out in the Asian comedy scene. And so, Mohammed, I've known you for years and years and years.
Yeah, I think I must have been 10 years at least.
Yeah.
I started in 2013. When did you start?
I started in Asia in 2012, but
Yeah.
that was really like my professional start doing comedy was also around then. So it was
Right.
it was 2012. Mohammed was always in the Shanghai scene, and I was in the Beijing scene. So whenever you were in Beijing, I'd see you up performing.
Yeah.
And whenever I go to Shanghai, and then ultimately to the Hong Kong scene.
Yeah.
And then Annie is in the Australian scene. It's just like a really great coincidence that all three of us are in Taiwan at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I really want to hang out with you guys and have tea. And then I realized, like, oh, I actually have like two comedians I can have on the show, which is which
So
is
we
great.
met in China, and then I live in Hong Kong, and
Yeah.
we're now in Taiwan. So we never really left China.
Yeah, it's-
Anyway,
And I'm the Chinese person who's never lived here. And I'm like learning Mandarin right now.
yeah. So this
Oh
is
my God.
So what? Who speaks better Mandarin?
He does now.
Oh, that's
actually.
so funny.
yeah.
That's hilarious.
I think she knows more words, but I'm more like fluent in
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And
daily
he
stuff.
has the confidence.
Yeah.
So that with a lot of things you can just pull it off.
Oh, yeah.
If you go in, even if it's wrong, with
Yeah.
confidence.
That's true. It's actually very important to know. People are always your Chinese must be so good. It's like, no, I'm willing to be wrong.
Yes.
That's
Which
actually
is more acceptable, to be fair, to us, like to
Yeah.
her even.
Yeah, you
Like,
have it
it's more
harder.
acceptable for us because they're like they expect us to make
yeah,
mistakes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But then I don't know if I can
Yeah.
say this on record,
Yeah,
but like they think she's retarded most
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
time.
You can't say.
It's like the record as if there's like some very important somebody's like taking notes and be like, it's on paper
It's
now.
my favorite moment of every day, being like someone who's like, "Hey, why don't you speak?"
Does this happen to you guys where like you're like people are coming up and talking to you and you say something in Mandarin, they turn to you?
Yeah,
and say
yeah,
it?
exactly.
Yeah.
That
On the
happens.
plane
That
around. Yeah,
happens.
he couldn't have pork in his meal, and they kept talking to me. And I'm like, don't talk to me.
Yeah. Before we get started with the questions, we'll
Yeah.
have a great time. I do want to make some tea.
Yay.
So I have, this is a Tia Guanyin, an Oolong tea from here in Taipei. I went a couple days ago to Maokong, which is like, you should actually do it while you're here.
Yeah.
You take a gondola up to the hills, you get a view of the whole of Taipei, and they actually grow tea up on the hills, like
Nice.
right near Taipei.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be a nice, dark, roasty oolong. Give this a try. Annie, do you drink a lot of tea?
Yes, I grew up drinking lots of tea, including caffeinated tea, I reckon, from the time I could walk.
Oh, yeah?
So tea does nothing to me from a
Tea does nothing to
caffeine
me.
perspective.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, like I'm always interested in the sort of Chinese communities overseas, outside of China. It seems like sometimes the tea culture goes and sometimes it doesn't. And it probably depends on where the people were when they moved out of China. You know?
Yeah.
But like within the the Australian Chinese community, like the tea is still definitely a thing.
Yeah, especially with the British influence.
Mm-hmm.
So colonized by the British, everyone loves having a cup of tea, and I reckon it's 50-50 coffee to tea drinkers. And also,
Really? That's very high for
it
tea.
is very high for tea.
We actually have people that like order tea from Australia, and I feel really bad because they have to pay a ton of shipping. But on the other hand, I'm like, that is literally not my fault. Your island is too far.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that may not be my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always working to figure out a way. I'm not looking into seeing if I can get a warehouse there, but it's like it's madness.
Yeah.
So. Cheers. Keep it
Yay,
moving.
cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks
meeting
for
up in
having us.
Taiwan. Here we
Yeah.
go, guys.
You
Cheers.
didn't cheers me.
Yeah, here you go.
Okay. You're supposed to look in each
There
other's
you go.
eyes.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Isn't it like with
Yeah,
alcohol
yeah.
only?
Is it alcohol and tea?
I have
don't
no
know.
idea. This is our alcohol now. Both of us don't drink.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
give me that hit. Yeah.
So this has a little smokiness to it. It's
Ooh,
really
that's
gonna
nice.
come out.
very clean.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the Taiwanese oolongs, basically what I'm doing on this trip is I'm doing like a Taiwan mystery drop. Like I don't know exactly what I'm going to be putting on the shop, but we have like a mystery drop option if people
Yeah.
want to like get some of whatever I'm going to
That's
be picking
really
up. And
nice.
this is up on that list. I think this might be
Yeah.
one of the things in the drop, if not the drop. So
Yeah, he did not tell me to say this, but this
no,
is
it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The Taiwanese oolong is like known for being really clean tasting because the environment here is really good. It's really great. I basically just kind of made this trip to Taiwan a little bit on a whim. Because I was, I hadn't been back here since before the pandemic, and so it's good to be tied back into the world of that I used to live in, where I would be hanging out with comedians in Asia and doing comedy shows. So,
Yeah.
Mohammed, you just did a show here at 2-3 Comedy last night.
Yeah.
which was awesome. He killed it. If you guys should definitely follow both of their
Thank
channels
you.
if you want to see the laughs. But what was it like performing in Taiwan? Like, how did you feel the audience was?
It was great. I did Taiwan, different, like same promoter but different venue 7 years ago. That was my first time in Taiwan, 2017. He ran a basement, like a show in a basement of a bar. Now he has his own comedy club.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sam Yarbs. And I was very excited because all the comics who played that club said it's like such a beautiful venue and stuff. I was just excited to see it.
That's
and I've
good.
run shows for years. So just like from a booker's point of view, I just wanted to see the room.
Yeah.
So to play the Taiwan audience, honestly, probably the nicest audience in
Yeah.
Asia. They're so giving, as opposed to fucking Koreans who never laugh.
Which
yeah.
Korea?
Actually, I would probably have better luck in North Korea.
Dude, can you imagine like
South
if you-
Korean audience just bad.
It just didn't work, and then you're like, well, we have another Korea.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, you're Egyptian. You might be able to get in. I don't know.
Oh
if they
yeah.
don't
I
let
think
the
I
Americans
can get in. Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I bet you'd kill it in North Korea because the moment they knew you were coming, they would make a fake audience just to laugh at
Yeah. I should shoot a special there.
you. Yeah.
Live from the gulag.
Live from in Pyongyang, And then Annie, you also performed last night. What did you feel like the audience was like here?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a good melting pot and they're so international. So one of the reasons why I want to come to Asia is to level up my comedy and make it more relatable to lots of different audiences. The first time I came to Asia to do gigs, I was on some of the shows that Mo was running and I realized some of the references were just completely unrelatable to Hong Kongers. Like I have material about driving and people don't drive because you have to be really rich.
Yeah, that's
And-
true.
Yeah.
And like it's like classic LA shtick is like traffic jokes is like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But like, but it's here, like, weirdly enough, it almost would be bragging here to be taught. Like
Yes.
in Hong Kong, you're like, I got stuck in traffic the other day, and it's like, did you?
Yeah.
Did you really? Tell me
Yeah.
more about
Yeah.
how hard it is having
Yeah.
your fucking BMW and.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a success from having grown since June to come and every joke I know is going to work because it's so universally relatable. So it's like starting again. I'm like stripping back to, okay, you got like 15 maximum relatable minutes in Asia
yeah.
and then to grow again and find hopefully an hour out of this would be really great.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
So tell people, who did you see in the audience? Like, was it all Taiwanese people? Was it all Americans? Like, who was there?
Pretty mixed.
Yeah, it was a good mix, I would say. I mean, just from visually from the stage, I would say it was about 50% locals, 40% maybe. And then obviously, you can sometimes mistake, like there was a Korean person, for example, last night. And, you can mistake her for a local if you're not paying attention.
Sure.
So, yeah, I would say 40-50% Asians.
Yeah.
And then the others are, like, mixed.
Yeah.
Right? And one black guy, of course.
Oh yeah, the
because
one
you
black
have
guy.
to have it.
Who was the same black guy in the audience?
That was a
7
joke.
years ago?
But there was,
was it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm glad you actually bought it.
Yeah,
But,
Mohammed was like, he saw this one black guy in the front row. He's like, it's the same guy from 7 years ago. And then he didn't fight.
No, he didn't fight. The reason being also, that was kind of an inside joke between me and the booker as well, because 7 years ago, there was one black guy in the audience. Different guy. And I almost did the same joke. It was like, where are your black people in Taiwan? And I checked with the local openers as well. 3 people, and I'm like, if I say there is not a lot of black people in Taiwan, would people agree? And they said, absolutely.
Okay.
So that's why I did it. I'm like, oh yeah, the one black guy is here.
That's
and then
funny.
everyone was laughing.
Whereas he did this similar joke in Australia and it got really tense.
Oh, that was
because,
so funny.
It was around the time, because we've got an indigenous population, but they've kind of been driven out of the cities for various like oppressive reasons by white Australia. So when he's like, where do you put all your black people? We're like, ugh.
Well, turns out I didn't know. I was genuinely asking
I was
about
really curious where you put them all.
but not just that.
Not
I was
here.
actually asking about the actual black people, like the
African.
Oh, yeah.
Africans.
Yeah.
Turns out they call their indigenous people
Oh,
black.
no.
Yeah, so it was like a...
It was on the weekend that we had a vote as well. We had a referendum. So
Wendy
whether-
told them to fuck off, by the way.
Well, yeah, whether they should be heard in Parliament and have a say, and we actually voted no.
And the answer was no.
Yeah, the answer was no.
We have listened to you and decided not to.
Yeah,
listen.
exactly. We have heard your,
yeah.
we have heard your cries and we
Yeah.
decided we
No.
don't give a shit.
Yes, you're we literally like I see your tears, but I'm also thirsty.
Yeah, so you got a 5-minute set.
I'm
You
so
would
thirsty.
you would kill in Australia.
Yeah, there you go. know?
I
Yeah,
guess
so that was completely misinterpretation.
Well, so here's the thing that I always find fascinating is like, how do you go about deciding when you go to Asia what jokes you are and aren't going to tell, knowing that you're an Egyptian guy in Hong Kong, whatever, you're Australian Chinese now performing last night in Taiwan. What's the calculus you go through to decide what you're going to say? Or what you're not going to say?
I mean, I like opening all of my shows in Asia by pointing out that all Asians look the same. And then we start from there. And it's so far I've been doing it every single time. It works 100% of the time. What about you, Annie?
I don't start my sets off by offending the audience. I like to have them on my side. But yeah, I feel in Asia, especially with the background I have as diaspora, we still have lots of relatable topics like family, like traditional cultural values. So I think, leading into that and having like strict or traditional parents has always been, ever since I was a teenager, that was like my way to get it out on stage, like any frustration. So I think that still works. A lot of people are probably, feminists like me now, the young people, they're pretty liberal. So I think they understand that, like, dating stories, family tension, embarrassing, like cringe, kind of cathartic therapy type comedy, which just seems to work everywhere. So that's been something that I've found, it doesn't really matter where you go. You can just speak from your personal experience.
Everybody has been wounded by their parents. So,
Right.
so it's like a thing. For the Australian comedy material, like in the States, I think one thing that surprised me is like so much is about race and so much is about like kind of the melting pot culture. And Australia is also, I think, a little bit similar to the States in that there's an indigenous population that has mostly been shunted to the side, and then people from around the world took over this continent. And so I wonder whether it's similar. Like,
people talk about Melbourne as if it's China. They're like, oh, I came to Melbourne, I thought I was coming to Australia. It's actually China, because there's just so many Asian faces on the street. But it means that, like, I don't think it's filtered up towards the broader TV networks diversity yet. So that's the thing. We still have like a handful of Chinese or Asian comedians floating around. So I feel like it's still a good place to, like a small pool to perform to, which is why it's like a good challenge to be here where the audience all looks like you and they see comedians like me all the time. So you actually have to be good. You can't just focus on just the race stuff. And also it's really helpful to not have to focus on race all the time, because I think when you're starting out, that's the expectation. You think you should write just jokes about why you look like this. But it's been liberating, like even talking to him yesterday, like, do I need to explain that I'm Australian or can I just do the jokes? And he was like, just do the jokes, because they're kind of used to it here. They see lots of people with different accents who have an Asian face. So I'm like, okay, that's a relief. I don't need to go write new jokes about that, because I kind of just want like to talk like I'm a normal person, because I'm always going to be Chinese Australian in everything that I do. Like, I can't even
let's
remove
face it,
that.
with that accent, you don't sound like a normal person.
Fuck you.
remember in your bit last night, you were talking about your mom got upset at something, and you're like, my mom went, nerd.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Let's pile on now.
Sorry. It was funny. Somebody told me that it was like, I did a bit in Chinese about the Boston accent, and the Boston accent is that there's no R's. You don't say ah.
Yeah.
So like, you park my car and have it, whatever, that sort of thing. And somebody was like, oh, it's like they thought it sounded a lot like the Australian accent, because the other part of the Boston accent is you add the R onto stuff that it shouldn't have.
Like China.
You're China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, you're in China. Whatever.
Yeah.
No, they say we talk like this and not articulate because there's too many flies in Australia. So people like to keep, they keep their mouths like really closed. So they're like, yeah, mate, this is really nice,
Man, we were side rant here, but we were in like an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere in Australia. Where were we?
Which one?
With the
so many
freaking
random...
spider.
Oh, yeah, was, we were out, like where it's like the meat pie capital. Like they have really good beef there. So it's called Gippsland.
Whatever. Bumfuck Australia, basically. And we're sleeping in an Airbnb. And stepping off the bed, going to the bathroom, and there is basically a spider that's just out of a Steve Irwin documentary.
Like just the size of a plate.
And what is it called? The Carpenter
No,
thing. What is
no,
it called? It has. You told me the
Now
name.
you're confusing me, and I'm not going to be able to remember it.
She's like, there were so many massive spiders on that
Yeah,
ship.
there
I
are
can't
a lot of
remember which-
I don't know if you do
Spiders in
graphics
Australia.
here, but it's right here. And then you
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, gigantic, and I was like,
Was it one of those ones with like the health bar on it? Have you seen that? Have you seen that picture?
I've not seen that, but
There's
it's
like
quite
a
funny.
meme with somebody's like, the spiders in Australia are so big they have health bars. It was just a spider, but it happened to be like high up on the ceiling, right underneath like a red strip on the wall,
Oh,
and
that's
it looked
funny.
exactly like
Yeah,
an
yeah, like
health
video
bar.
game.
Video game
Yeah.
health bar.
yeah, but I was like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Australia for you. And then like we had to like scoop it with a Tupperware and make sure don't touch it, and then like take it
So
outside.
it turns out it wasn't poisonous.
It wasn't poisonous,
So-
but at
But
the
you
time
didn't know
you
that.
think
You didn't know
Yeah.
that.
exactly.
This is something that you can find out later.
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not
I'll
a
find
now.
you the name. It'll come to me later. You
That's
just
fine.
literally give it
Yeah.
a plug.
Yeah.
The spider.
Give it a plug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow
Where
the
are you-
spider. on
Yeah,
social.
where are you performing?
Follow
Like,
the
what
spider.
dates are you doing?
Well, let's take a quick break, and we're going to reheat our water so we can get some more juice out of these leaves, and we'll keep talking about the comedy in Asia. I'm Jesse.
Annie?
I'm going to do blow, Mohammed.
What? Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the halftime break. I am up in the tea mountains now. We just saw the tea mountains where we're going to be getting our tea from for the Taiwan box. I don't know exactly when this is going to be airing or what the details will be, but it's on the website. That's going to be a really good box. I've done a ton of work on this trip, and we found some really great tea for you guys. Also, don't forget to join the podcast, to subscribe on our audio channels. We have the full hour podcast of all the episodes on there. And thank you so much. We'll go back to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tea Time with Jesse. I'm Jesse.
I'm Annie.
I'm Mohammed.
And we're talking about comedy in Asia and just life in Asia and figuring out how to be in places as one person when there are other people around and they're different than you, but also kind of like you. It's good that I feel so glad I have comedy as an outlet to do that.
Yeah.
Because like if you don't, you're just like whining. But
Yeah.
if it's comedy,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, this is art.
I
Like,
feel like we are a huge diversity card today. We just need a black person.
What
Yeah,
is
great.
what is the? I was thinking if there is a flag of brown, white, and
yeah.
I don't know.
I
What
don't know.
am I? Yellow?
oh, there you go. You said it, not
What
me.
I-
Thank
what
you.
I-
You like
That was the whole point.
Well, this is actually an interesting question. Is like it's surprising like what isn't appropriate. Like you know,
Yeah.
coming back to the States, like you couldn't say yellow, or like I definitely couldn't.
Yes,
But
I couldn't
China-
either, even though we're dating.
But in China, like I could totally say that if you said like you know 我是白人,你们是黄人, whatever, like you know you could say that. and
But
it
wait,
was-
is that something they're familiar with in China? Like
Yeah.
they respond to that?
Well,
They
the
understand?
reason why it's okay is because it's like completely. It's not even archaic. It's like it's just completely unrelated to real life.
Yes, yes.
So it's like you would never say that because it's not like okay that concept of race is not the way they think about it, and so there's no negative emotion tied to it.
Yes.
So people don't get pissed. You said in your routine last night you started doing comedy when you were 16.
Yeah,
Is that right?
16,
What was
yeah.
that like doing stand up at 16? Because I wasn't doing stand up.
Yeah, I rewatched the set recently. I think it was last year. It was like a look back, 10 years later, more than 10. And I was like, that was bad. But that was so encouraging because it was a competition that the Melbourne Comedy Festival started. And there was probably like one or two jokes that still holds up.
Do you remember a joke you did when you were 16?
Yeah.
Could you do
yeah.
one?
Oh.
I love
I hate being the person.
Yeah, yeah.
As a comedian, I hate being like, tell us a joke.
It's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
to be fair
yeah,
to
yeah.
her, we should do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
tell you
true,
the.
yeah,
I'll tell you
okay.
the first joke I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a joke about how I was always finding rice stuck to my clothes, and I was like, this is like it just seems to be a specific Asian problem. It's not like other cultures are like, oh look, I found a potato, and I did an Irish accent, and it was bad.
That's not as bad as I thought. You were like,
No.
it was bad. I thought it
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
you can make that work.
You can make,
make that
probably
work.
make that work.
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
I think from my very first set, which I haven't watched for years, but I remember like a moment of just completely just talking to my friends in the audience, because most of the audience at the open mic were my friends, and completely like alienating the rest of the room. So I'm just talking about this one guy who like hooks up with a lot of girls or whatever. I I'm like, he is here. He's with the date. Let's see how he does tonight. And everyone's like, who's this guy? Completely don't understand how stand-up works even.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy fucks, right? And everyone's like, we don't know. We don't know you.
It's like you used your stage time to be like a hype man.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is actually like a really next level thing. Can you imagine? Like that would be such a great, like, interesting date idea. Like, hey, let's go on a date and see my friend do comedy, and the whole day is just about how great you are.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. Not planned.
That was funny.
What about you?
So my first stand-up joke I did in English was at an open mic at college, and the whole routine was about one lunch lady. Like one lady who like did the like the cashier. She wasn't even serving the food. She was just the cashier, and her name was Kathy, and she sounded like this. And the moment I did that, everybody at the school knew who I was talking about.
Yeah.
And so she was just like a total like a chaotic person. She was like just this old lady, but she gave no fucks. She would do whatever she wanted. She was like one time she was like, ringing up my lunch. And then she's like, hooray! I'm like, what happened? She's like, your lunch is $7.77. I'm like, yeah, what does that mean?
She sounds like Krusty the Clown.
And she's like, it's $7.77. I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, it means your meal's free. Get out of here.
Wow.
Nice.
So I just told like a bunch of Kathy stories, and then I sung a version of "Wind Beneath My Wings" in Kathy's voice about being a cashier at my school. It was like, it was real.
That's really admirable because I'm trying to go deeper on a topic. Like that's still something that I haven't learnt where, you don't just do one bit and you move on. Whereas you knew how to go deep. You went deep.
Well, I think that there's maybe like, it's something that I it's funny. I have unlearned that skill, I think. Like I did it when I didn't know that it was hard. And then because now I'm like, so nervous about wasting time. So now I'm like, well, unless I know the first joke works, I'm not even going to write the tags. But it's like the juice that got you on stage in the very beginning was like, I'm going to go like 12 jokes deep on this. And you never even thought like maybe the first one's going to bomb and I have 11 jokes that are not going to work. But like back then you would just do it. And ironically, like you might even win people over if you just like refuse to get off of the topic. Even though it's not working, but you're like, I came here to talk about Kathy.
Yeah.
You're gonna sit and hear me talk about Kathy. It's really funny because like it reminds me of back when I was trying to get my Weibo registered in China. And in order to get the check mark in China, you need to say like what you do. So I had enough followers and I sent in the check mark and I was like, they're like, what do you want to be verified as? I say, I'm a Togo演员, a stand-up comedian. And they're like, we need a work contract seeing that you get paid to do stand-up so that we know you're a stand-up. And I'm like, no stand-up has a work contract showing that they got paid
or
to do.
you could do what he does and writes letters from himself.
Yeah. But I have a company. I have a legal LLC in Hong Kong. So every time I'm applying for a visa, including Taiwan visa, they need to have an employer like leave.
Oh yeah.
But I am the only employee in my company.
That's
so
funny.
my letters, and this is still a legally accepted form to write a letter from the MD who is me for myself to take leave with the same signature, and they completely accept that.
That's funny.
It's so funny.
That's
it's
so
like,
weird.
we allow Mohammed to leave, and he applied for leave, and we accepted. It's signed Mohammed.
But maybe it's a different Muhammad. Yeah, there's so many Muhammads.
The Taiwan visa lady, literally, I went there, I was late to print the document or whatever, so I went there with the chop. I haven't chopped it yet, I just want to show it to her, so I make sure it's correct. She goes like, yeah, it's correct, have it chopped, and I just pulled it out slowly, I went, sorry. And then she goes, you're I'm like, I am the only, that's me.
And that's when you take off the mask and it's just your own face.
It's so they like zip it, it's still you. Whoa. It's so weird though. It's like countries have no trust at all in people. But you just get that one little thing and then they're like, now I trust.
Which, by the way,
there
is a little kiosk in front of Central MTR that can literally copy any chop.
No. Yep. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like in Central, right next to the government buildings. It's like, I don't think it's illegal. It's probably... Whatever, the kiosk is running legally. They fix umbrellas and shoes and they copy chops. This is the three categories. But the point is that I can make the same exact... The Taiwan visa office is not verifying if I'm the company or not. Yeah. I can just take that chop, take it to this guy, make a chop of my own, go back to the lady and apply for a visa.
That's funny.
The whole system is just stupid.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, we don't have this concept in Australia, like the chop or the stamp or anything. No, I think
and
it's so outdated.
And the chop is so not complicated. The Hong Kong ones particularly, I show it to you. It's just like, it's It's a very basic chop.
The mainland ones are legit. Like I remember when I got my
Those are hard. Yeah, the star one.
You got the big heavy stamp, and it's got like serial numbers on it. And oh my god, I like the worst. Like my worst experience with the stamps in China was I went to the bank and I had to make this bank transfer and I had to write all of the information by hand. So I was writing all the characters by hand, and I had spent 10 years of education to be able to do this, but my handwriting is still sloppy, right? Because I just didn't learn it growing up. And then I go to the front, I wait in line 20 minutes to go to the front and do the thing, and she's like, yeah, this character, the dot is on the left side. It should be on the right side. I'm like, oh. I had to go all the way back, write it again. Okay, I did it correctly. She's like, okay, great, stamp it. So I take the stamp out and I stamp it, and it's a little smudged. and she's the same person. She knows I just went back and did this, and we both had a moment looking at it. And she was looking at it, and I was looking at it, and we were both like, I'm gonna have to do that again. I'm gonna go. She's like, I have to go back and do it again. So I went back a third time, and it's like, you know, now whenever I stamp contracts in China, like I'm like, I know that I could blow it, you know, like, and that gives you the yips. It's like a sports thing. It's like you have a 1 foot putt, but you know that you could blow it, and now you're thinking about blowing it. So every time I stamp a document, and the Chinese, they don't worry about the bump, bump, but it's in my head now forever. And it's like, and if you mess it up, the contract is not legally binding. The signature doesn't matter. We're just about finished up. Before we finish, though, I do want to do a little bit of a quick lightning round. Before we do the lightning round, though, what did you guys think of the tea?
Great. Was this the same?
This is the same
batch?
Yeah,
same. Even once. The flavor has stayed consistent after. You've probably done it like 10 times.
Yeah, maybe 15 seeds.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, because normally you might get 3 good ones and the rest taste like water.
Yeah. So really the high quality tea, like you get more out of it, and so sometimes people are like nervous. They're like, "What if I don't want that much tea?" I'm like, "Don't drink that much tea. That's fine."
I mean, there is a really easy trick that I'm now figuring out. There's like these small shot cups, and like so easy because you just keep it hot, as opposed to having them. I know this is very obvious, but but I drink my tea in a mug.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I should drink my tea in.
You should. The smaller cups, repeated steeps. What also the other cool thing it does is you feel a little bit of a journey of the tea. It starts a little light, it gets stronger, it kind of loosens out a little bit. So it's not just like sort of the same thing over and over again.
And then when it loses flavor, you're in steep trouble. All right.
That's bad.
We are no longer dating.
All right, lightning round. So I'm gonna just say a question. Like these answers to these questions are like 1 sentence maximum, okay? And we'll go for both of you. So, what was the favorite country you've ever performed in?
Australia.
Oh, okay.
Taiwan.
All right. Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. What was the best room you've ever played in?
Oh, the Palais Theatre in Melbourne, 3,300 televised. Can't
beat that.
Yeah.
Shanghai Center in Shanghai. It's like 1,000 theater.
Nice.
Was opening for Jim Gaffigan. So
that's a good night.
Yeah, that was a great night. It was like one of these like everything lined up perfectly, and we had a great time. Yeah.
Favorite thing about being a traveling comedian?
The traveling.
Doing fuck all before the show. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Last night before, I know it's short answer. Yesterday before the show, we played ping pong for about 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and having the freedom to do that just is amazing.
I played more ping pong than stand up. Like I came after 8 minutes of work. I played ping pong for an hour and a half.
Yeah, you're basically a professional ping pong player that funds
doing
their
stand up on the side.
Yes. Which is great. Well, very good. Well, it was so great to be able to hang out with you guys, and once we turn off the cameras again, we're going to the fish market. So it's going to be a good time. That's why you mentioned
fish. Yeah. You're like, you come here, you do some shows, you eat fish. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about our literal plan after this.
You did say it super casual. Am I going to call you out on that? It's not, no, I'll keep going. I knew what you were talking about. But it was great to be able to see you guys. And again, let me know if you're ever in LA. And it's great to be able to share it with you guys as well. If you are interested in the tea, you should go on and at the time of viewing, I do not know what's in the mystery Taiwan drop, but probably by the time that you see this, it may or may not be a mystery. In any case, if you want Taiwanese teas, they are on the site. The tea set, all of the stuff that you see here is also on the site. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And just really great to be able to spend some time with you guys. Thank you again. What is socials that people can follow you on?
At Annie Louey, ANNIE LOUEY.
Great.
I'm at the other Mohammed And that's probably the only handle that is the other Muhammad. So it doesn't matter how like the spelling of Muhammad, you'll find it. The other Muhammad on Instagram.
You'll be able to find him.
You'll be able to find
Very
it.
good. Thank
Yeah.
you guys so much. Have a good one, guys, and enjoy your tea.